My name is Corey Friend. I am here with a dear friend and mentor and coach, Fraser Bailey, and just wanted to sit down and discuss with you, some potential questions that will help us understand what you're about and everything that you have to offer.
I love it. Let's do it, man.
So you coach some world famous musicians and top level entrepreneurs. Is that typically the type of people you work with, and has it always been like that?
Yeah, so a lot of people would see where I'm at now and they see, coaching Chris Daughtry, the musician, other famous musicians, high-level entrepreneurs, special forces, Green Berets, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, other doctors, other medical doctors. And they would assume, he's just always been doing that. He just had that opportunity from the beginning. And that has not always been the case. Like many people, I started as a beginner. I started as a total novice where I didn't have any knowledge or background, and through healing myself and improving my own health and then learning about that and then being able to teach that to other people, I think because I'd created such profound results in myself, people saw that, and then enabled me to help these people create profound results. And I just periodically got more and more people in. So I went from just your average person, and I still work with just your average people. And I think from all walks of life. But the beautiful thing is that now I've got such a repertoire of skill, having worked with people from all these different paths, that it's enabled me to take all the challenges and all the things that work for some, work for others, and condense them down into really simple distilled processes that get people at the highest level superhuman results.
And obviously we live in a world that's pretty saturated with information, especially like the coaching space. So I would ask you, why people should listen to you specifically.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'll be the first to tell you, take everything I say with a grain of salt, first of all. A lot of this is just my own experience. But one of the things that I do think is important to recognize is that you will notice with me, I don't give binary ones and zero answers to things. Everything is context. And I think one of the ways to know if someone within any space is skillful at what they do is they always ask for context. They're not just going to tell you this is good, this is bad, yes or no. They're going to say, well, where are you coming from? If you're coming from a place where you were consuming McDonald's for breakfast, standard American diet, then maybe doing X, Y, and Z is actually a progression in the right step for you. So the reason why people should listen to me is because I take into account your context. And I think that's the thing that's missing for people. And I mean, beyond that, I think you want to look at the person and their result. And do they have the result that you want? And have they been able to replicate the result in other people over and over and over again? And I check both those boxes. So because of that, that's why people should at least take what I say into consideration and apply it and see if it works for them.
Your approach, what would you say is unique and different about it?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously within the fitness and health space, there's a lot of cookie cutter stuff. There's a lot of models. There's a lot of things that people talk about, whether it be calories and macros and ways to train. One of the things that I found that was different to what I do, oddly enough, was it was in a way me solving my own problems. So I looked at a lot of the health problems that I had coming from being on a bunch of psych meds for 10 years. I was overweight at one point. I was really thin at one point. I struggled a ton with my energy, a ton with my anxiety. And I knew that the conventional models of doing things weren't really working for me. So I started to delve into this whole world of blood work, understanding blood work. And when I say understanding blood work, looking at what's actually happening in your body chemically to then figure out, okay, what nutrition, what supplementation should you be adding in to improve A, B, and C biomarkers. And so when you look at your blood work or a hair mineral analysis or a food sensitivity test, and you can then piece together all the variables and all the pillars that you need to optimize, that's what makes the processes I do very different. Because you're not just taking a cookie cutter model, jamming it onto you and saying, here, go do this thing. I'm saying, okay, based on your physiology, your sex hormones need this type of work, your thyroid metabolism is here, your insulin sensitivity is here, and because of that, there'll be certain things that you can do specifically to optimize your biology. And that's how you unlock the doors. So the result fundamentally is you get a more potent result, a lot easier. There's less physiological friction, because if you're improving, your sex hormone profiles and your insulin sensitivity and your inflammation markers in your body will just naturally optimize. So what happens is you end up getting a better physical result, but you don't burn out. Like, you're not going to have cravings through the roof. You're not going to have brain fog and feel low energy all day, because you've optimized your internal chemistry. And then the byproduct is you get in better shape physically. So that is a very different approach than I think a lot of people use. But that's also why what I do is so effective, because I've done it in myself, I've done it in other people, and it truly does work. And it's something that a lot of people don't even know exists. And once they know it exists, there's like no going back.
So people don't pay attention to their blood work. You mentioned some brain fog and low energy levels. What are other common pitfalls you see entrepreneurs and business owners fall into?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, one subset of people that I work with a lot is entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, and they have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. They have a lot of pressure. I'll be the first to tell you, I know what it's like, because I am an entrepreneur myself. And so there is a lot of pressure, there's a lot of responsibility, you basically have to create a result out of nothing. And there is so much weight on your back to do that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs will sacrifice themselves at the altar of money, thinking that they just have to do anything and everything they can to get the financial result, to get the business result. And so their health goes out the window. They gain a bunch of weight, their blood work looks terrible, they're on the edge of having a heart attack or stroke. They've got anxiety through the roof. They're drinking to manage the anxiety, taking Xanax and other things to manage the anxiety. They're then feeling so sedated, they're having to use Ritalin and caffeine and Adderall to kind of pump themselves up to get going each day. So it's this vicious roller coaster of uppers and downers. And they don't realize how much that's affecting their energy, their mood, their relationship with their partner, their relationship with their kids. It's one thing to perform the task and get the deal done. But if you're doing it at the expense of your health, where you're fat and out of shape and wore out, and you're moody with your kids, you're moody with your spouse, you don't have any bandwidth for your family, what is the point? What is the point of any of that? And I see many entrepreneurs do that. I can just look at someone on social media, and I can look at their physiology. I can look at, do they have puffiness through their face? Do they have dark rings under their eyes? Are the whites of their eyes yellow? Like, I literally can look at someone's physiology and tell if they're healthy or not. And I can look at a lot of these guys and I'm like, you are one bad day away from having a stroke. You have that much visual inflammation happening. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that this is more than just having abs and looking jacked. This is like literally longevity. This is you making sure that you're here for your family. Because if you were to keel over and something happened to you, someone else is gonna take care of your family. Are you cool with that? And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that a lot of entrepreneurs don't even understand how much better they could feel. I always talk about ROI, so like return on investment or return on input. Meaning, if you've got a certain amount of tasks to achieve in a day, if you're swinging with a blunt axe because you're so wore out, you're so foggy, you're so tired, you're not going to get that stuff done very well. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to take you longer to get things done. The sales conversations are not going to be as fruitful. You're not going to want to post pictures and video of yourself on social media because you're going to be all self-conscious about the way you look. I don't like the way I look. I look fat. And so you're going to roadblock yourself from getting the information out there that could help people because of all the things holding you back. And so I tell people, when you optimize all the stuff, your anxiety goes down, your mood and your energy increase, your temperament improves, your cravings decrease. So then you stick to the plan more. You end up looking leaner and more athletic and healthy. And the byproduct of that is people see someone who's thriving. People see someone who's winning in each area of life. They're not just winning in business. They're winning with their body, they're winning in their health, they're winning in their relationships, and people will be drawn to that. People will be attracted to that. Yes, they might be attracted to you if you are doing well with business and you're still fat and out of shape. But imagine how much better you could be with a sharp axe. So these are the things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs do not necessarily understand how important they can be. And that's why I share this type of message.
Yeah, I think something that you said that resonated with me even just yesterday was them prioritizing their time where they really need to be prioritizing the quality of their energy. Could you
Yes.
expand on that?
Yeah, so I mentioned that most people think, oh, time is my most important asset. And I would say it's not. It's your energy. Like your ability to manage your state, your ability to manage your energy. If you create a lot of time freedom for yourself, but you're exhausted and you're moody, how on earth is that useful? I would rather have a little bit less time freedom, but be so energetic and dialed in that I can move mountains in these little windows of time. That's how you actually move the needle in your life. That's how you impact more people, because if you can increase your energetic state, it's like an amplification of everything that you can achieve. So yes, time matters, but managing your energy and state is the underlying currency for achievement.
So in doing all this, you definitely see mistakes with students you work with. What are the most common ones you see with fat loss?
Yes, I mean, I think the first thing is fat loss for a lot of people seems like this mythical unicorn. It seems like this thing that just some people are lucky to get, other people won't get it. It takes too much sacrifice, too much struggle, too much strain. And I think the first thing that people make the mistake of doing is they don't have a plan. Like if you're in this fourth quarter of 2023 and you don't have some type of plan, roadmap, blueprint, that in and of itself is a problem. It's like trying to drive from Los Angeles to New York without a map. Like you might get there, but there's going to be a lot of dead end streets you go down. And so I think a lot of people, they'll spend money on marketing and they'll spend money on business coaches, but then they're going to be tight ass and frugal when it comes to investing in themselves with their health. They're not going to get like a health coach and treat themselves like a business athlete. I think that the pros act like business athletes and the amateurs bootleg things. So there's a difference. So I think the first thing is they don't have the right blueprint. You can put in the work, you can show up at the gym. People say, oh, showing up is half the battle. It's not. There's plenty of people who go to the gym every day and they still don't even look like they lift at all. So showing up, yes, that's important, but that's just mandatory. Welcome to being an adult. It's like that to me does not warrant a gold star. And so like you have to understand that yes, showing up is important, but you have to have the right plan. And I would say most people have really suboptimal plans. They just do a lot of things. They major in a lot of minor things. They worry about a lot of details. They want to know all about the supplementation they should use, but their diet's trash. Or they do a bunch of work on the treadmill at the gym and they don't do enough resistance training to build the muscle to raise their metabolism. That's one of the things is they'll do more cardio. Nothing wrong with cardio, I do cardio. But they don't prioritize leg training. They don't prioritize the big lifts, the big compound lifts, which drive a lot of muscle building. And when you have more muscle, you raise your metabolism. When you raise your metabolism, you burn more body fat while you're resting. The reason why I can stay below 10% body fat all year without counting calories is because of this principle. And people don't do that. They major in minor things. They do a lot of busy work, but it's not useful things. They're like basically digging the pool with a spoon. So they're doing a lot of work, they're very busy, but it's not strategic ROI. So I think the main thing is they need the right plan. And then the other thing I think is just they don't see it as a non-negotiable. So they'll go through the day, they'll be reactive, they'll just jam their workout in if they can fit it in. So if they have time, if between calls, they'll just jam it in somewhere. They don't make it a non-negotiable appointment that's blocked out in their calendar and nothing goes in that space. Like for me, each day, I have that window. There's no calls taking place. There is no nothing taking place during that time. That's my time to sharpen my axe and work on the results that I've got so I can go out into the world and be a better version of myself. And so if you are not making your training or the time to sit down and eat these healthy meals a non-negotiable that's scheduled into your routine, you're already in a reactive place. And you're already demonstrating that it's not a priority. And anything that's demonstrated to be not a priority, you're not going to get A+ results with it. So period. You just need to recognize that, schedule in a non-negotiable. And to be honest, you probably need someone to push you with that. That's why we have coaches, because we often know what we should do, we just don't do it. That's the whole point of having a coach, to have the accountability to get this stuff done.
And then similarly, how would you say, like, what are the biggest mistakes you see with muscle building?
Yeah, so I mean, the same principles kind of apply with muscle building and fat loss. In many ways, people prioritize the wrong training. They don't have enough progressive overload with their training. They shy away from doing legs. They won't do the squats. They won't do the deadlifts. They won't do any of the big movements that actually give you the biggest ROI with your result. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is everything else in their life is neglected. So they're not focusing on sleep. I mean, your sleep quality is going to drive a lot of how you feel and function. It's going to either speed up aging or slow down aging. It's going to increase cravings or decrease cravings. It's going to improve your energy or decrease your energy. So if you're just kind of sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, jamming it in when you can, staying up all night working, and then like sleeping in, and your circadian rhythms all throwing off, you're not going to be in a hormonal environment that's conducive with anabolism and muscle building. You're going to be in this catabolic state. You're going to get sick more often. You're going to basically just atrophy. And I think a lot of people do that. They don't understand that they need to treat themselves like a business athlete and schedule in that massage. Lock in a regular sleep-wake cycle. They need to plan in their training. These things need to be put into their routines as structured X-sharpening activities, because if you don't have the progressive overload with your training, if you're not doing the big compound lifts, if you are not doing the right type of training program with the right amount of volume, you're not going to create an environment where your body needs to build muscle. Most people, I mean, you've seen training with me, you've seen most people don't get into that zone where your body says, wow, we have to get bigger and stronger. They'll do a lot of fluff volume, a lot of junk volume. I would say most people do what I call junk volume, where they're just doing reps for the sake of reps. They're just doing reps to say they did workout, but they're not getting to the point where the muscle's coming close to failing. And there's a way to do that safely. Most people don't know that. And you got to experience that firsthand. So you understand now what it looks like. Most people don't get that. So I think that is a huge thing that's missing for a lot of people.
So why do people struggle with their energy and mood so much?
So this is a big one, because I think a lot of the people that I talk to, especially these professionals, entrepreneurs, they want to get a result, but they're struggling so much to manage their state. Like I said before, people think time is their most valuable asset. It's energy. If you can master your energy, it will change your life. I mean, I came from a place where I was on lithium carbonate for bipolar disorder, benzodiazepines for anxiety, Ritalin for ADHD. I was just metabolically drained all the time. I was kind of in shape, but I was tired all the time. I used to need to take a nap every day just to function. Like I would have to take a nap probably around 1 to 2 p.m. just to get through to the evening. And when I became a father, I could no longer do that. I couldn't get away with doing things like that anymore. And to be honest with you, rather than just taking the nap, I needed to ask myself, why was I so tired? And I think part of it comes down to a lot of people don't realize that food is like software and your body's like a supercomputer. And it's not just about how you look. So if you are putting malware onto your computer, and malware could be the form of processed foods, junk foods, foods that you're having sensitivities to that you don't even know about. A lot of people think that a food is healthy, and it's not actually very healthy for them. Like that's one of the biggest things is most people don't know what they don't know. They think something is healthy and it's actually not. And I see this all the time. I'm like, this person's like, oh, I eat pretty healthy. I'm like, well, explain to me what it looks like. And they rattle off the list. I'm like, damn, that's not actually that good. Based on your blood work, that's not very good. So they think they're doing the right thing. So what happens is that when you upload this malware onto your computer, everything de-optimizes. I mean, think about it. If you get a virus on your computer, you don't get pissed off with your computer. You don't throw the computer out and say the computer's not working. You recognize that there's something disrupting the hardware and it's affecting how the hardware works. So it's not you that's broken. Like, your system is not broken. It's that you're inadvertently, consciously or unconsciously, putting malware onto your computer and then trying to function. So if you get sleepy after lunch, at mid-afternoon, like most people will, you're probably consuming something at lunchtime that's like malware that's affecting your state. And I think that is the biggest thing for people, is that they don't understand that a lot of what I do is looking at these problems and these challenges from a place of software, hardware, and saying, okay, what is going to optimize your chemistry and optimize your state? And when you do that, you have more dietary control because you don't get as many cravings. You have more energy, you have more bandwidth, you have a better mood, your temperament's better. Think about how good life is when you're in that place. I mean, when you're in that place where you have one of those good days, you feel like you could conquer anything. That's the place where your body's going to change the most, because you're not going to be eating all the crappy food. You're not going to even crave it. I'm at the point where I check off so many of my vitamin and mineral targets that I need that I don't even get cravings at this point. I know that sounds hard for people to understand, but when your body is lacking something, it's going to send you a hunger signal, and you just don't know how to interpret that signal. So you end up eating processed foods, junk foods, and it doesn't actually quell the response. So you're fighting yourself every day with cravings and hunger because you're missing something. This is where I come in, because I can help you interpret what that is, and that's what upgrades your energy. And that's the missing piece for a lot of people. So I think most people just don't know what they don't know, and they are inadvertently uploading malware onto the computer, and that's just making the system run terribly. And you're not broken. I thought I was broken, and I was way below the average person, and here I am now after troubleshooting all these things. So I'm a walking example that when you upload a good operating system update onto your computer, you can change anything.
In the industry, you see a lot of like focus on like challenges and trends and diets. Like, what is your take on these challenges? And like 75 hard may not be the best example, because the way 75 hard should be versus what it actually ends up being for most people. How do you view that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously challenges like 75 hard is a common one, especially in the circles that I'm in. I see a lot of guys doing this as a challenge for themselves. And I do think it's good to have some type of structure. I think, like I said in previous discussions, if you're in the last quarter of this year and you don't have some type of plan, that's part of the reason why your results are not good. So you do need some type of structure or system. But I do think one of the challenges for a lot of people is that they will get a structure or system that's a cookie cutter, and they'll just force it into their life, and it's not in a way that is unique to their lifestyle, their routines, their demands, and their needs. And so they push it, and as they get closer to the end of the challenge, they just burn out, because it's so hard to sustain it. It's so hard to sustain all the training. It's so hard to sustain all the dietary parameters. So when they get to the end, they're just like toasted. And that's why they relapse and they yo-yo and they go back and forth and back and forth. And I see people doing challenges for like the third time. And I'm like, at a certain point, like, you've got to realize how insane that is. You're trying to do the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. So I think part of it is like, you've got to recognize that if you cannot sustain these processes long term, what's going to happen when you finish? You're going to go straight back to what you're doing. And if you are going to insert some type of plan or strategy into something like 75 hard, it has to be something smart. Like I've said before, there are common themes that I've distilled down in my processes that is like pulling one lever that solves like 5 problems. So if you pull one lever that solves 5 problems there, one lever that solves 5 problems there, you solve 10 problems with 2 actions. Most people are trying to solve 10 problems with 10 actions. And so they're busy doing 10 things. They burn out, they can't sustain it, when in actuality, if they had the right system from the beginning, they could get a much better ROI. So I say it's definitely about having the right system. So like Superhuman Upgrade, for example, my signature course, is an example of pulling a couple of levers that will solve massive problems. So that's exactly what this is about.
You've been having a lot of success and noise around the Superhuman Upgrade course. Could you go into a little more detail about it?
Yeah, so obviously many people know that for the longest time I was sort of working at the concierge elite level with a lot of high level people investing a lot of money into their health. And while that's fun and it's awesome to be working with people at the top of their game, it does remove a lot of people from the ability of getting my help. because most people just didn't have that level of funds to invest. And it was frustrating because I get a lot of people messaging me, and they're good people, and they needed help, and I just did not have the bandwidth to help them. I'm like, I can't. Like my fees are multi-5-figure investments. Like if you can't do that, I can't help you. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better solution. And that's where I sat down and created the Superhuman Upgrade, which was basically like a distillation of all the most potent tools that I've ever used on myself and on other high-level people that have yielded the best results, and put it together in a 4-week process. That's something that anyone can do. Without calorie counting, you can be doing it on the road while you're busy. It doesn't matter what occupation you're in. It's designed to not just optimize your body with making yourself look good, but to help you feel the best version of yourself too. And the cool thing about it is, one, it's a process that you can actually rinse and repeat and sustain long term. And you can actually engineer and adapt the portions with my structured systems that don't involve calorie counting, but like a biofeedback based approach. You can adjust the portions to either build muscle or lose body fat. It's like a sliding scale. So it's very, very user friendly for a range of goals. And I designed it for that reason, because I wanted it to be something that was so simple that people don't even feel like they're dieting. I've had people, Phil, for example, say he doesn't even feel like he's on a diet. And it's literally because he's not. It's so intuitive and user-friendly that people don't feel like they're doing something difficult. And when you can give someone that, the results are impossible to avoid. They're going to happen. You're going to get a result if you stick with it long enough, because you're not flip-flopping. So the Superhuman Upgrade is essentially a distillation of 20 years of my knowledge with nutrition, supplementation, training, biofeedback-based stuff. We even have a little bit of stuff on blood work in there as well. It's all the cutting-edge stuff that I teach compressed down into a course that I think everyone should try.
So along with the Superhuman Upgrade course, you have your blood work, Superhuman blood work protocol. What is that?
So that's sort of another example of getting a lot of questions and messages from people where I would talk about some of the stuff that I'd done in my own life to change my own health. I would talk about, I discovered this with my blood work, and I discovered this with my blood work, and I changed my diet here, and I improved these numbers, and then it transferred over to me feeling better, and all these things. And so people are like, what is that? Like, I don't even understand what any of that is. How do you use blood work? Like a blood work from the doctor, how do you use that to even know anything about your diet? And so I thought to myself, what are the key barriers for people? Like, first of all, they don't even know where to go to get it. So they don't know if they should go to their doctor, they don't know if they should go to a clinic, they don't know where to go. So the first thing it addresses is who to go to, and specifically what to ask for, because that's the biggest thing. It's not as much of a challenge to just go to your primary care physician, but if you don't ask for certain things, they typically will not run everything that you need. And it's like trying to put together a 100-piece puzzle, but you've only got 25 of the pieces. So if you have 100 markers that you want to run, but they only run 25, good luck putting together a 100-piece puzzle with 25 pieces. It won't happen, but that's what people try and do. So part of it is when you know what to run, then you can put together the puzzle properly. So it talks you and walks you through everything to run. Then starts to give you an overview of what each thing means. That's the key. Is it's one thing to run all the stuff, but if you look at it and it's just a bunch of numbers to you, you're going to be overwhelmed. So at least with a Superhuman Bloodwork Blueprint, it starts to give you an introduction as to what does these insulin sensitivity markers mean? What do these sex hormone numbers mean? What do these thyroid numbers mean? What does this C-reactive protein or this ApoB mean? And then that's when you start to get into the process of changing your diet, modifying your supplementation to improve those things. So the Superhuman Bloodwork Blueprint is this first step in that. And that's, I think, for most people, the place where they want to begin.
And then your next resource that you offer for free is the travel protocol. Can you expand on that as well?
Yeah, so one of the other things, working with musicians like Chris Daughtry and people who travel a lot for mastermind events and speaking arrangements and things like that, was I noticed a lot of people would do okay when they're in their controlled vacuum at home with their wife making their meals or their meal prep, or everything was like locked down. But as soon as you took them out of that environment and put them in a foreign place, everything would fall apart. They wouldn't know how to train, they wouldn't know what to eat, they wouldn't know what to do. All the routines go out the window. I see this all the time with people who go to mastermind events and they just have no plan. They end up drinking a bunch, they eat sporadically, and they get back and they either get sick after the mastermind event or they just feel burned out for like a week. That's a good example of not having a plan. So the Superhuman Travel Protocol was basically designed through all the stuff that I used for all of these people that I could see, there's a key thing, there's a key thing, there's a key thing, and take it together and lay out this framework of when you're traveling, where do you go to get the right foods? What type of things should you take with you on the road? What type of equipment can you take with you that's user-friendly and gets you a result without going backwards? Because the key is that most people don't realize you don't have to take 10 steps back when you travel. In fact, you can actually continue to progress if you have the right systems. So the Superhuman Travel Protocol is addressing all those key variables.
Well, Fraser, I always sincerely and genuinely appreciate being able to just sit down and chat with you and absorb nuggets. Did you have any, final statements, closing remarks that, just things that you want to say to people?
I mean, more than anything, man, I'd put it back in your court and I would say to you, this morning, we trained this morning. And this is the second time you've trained with me now. But what was like one or two key nuggets that you got from that experience that you feel like you either didn't know before this or people may not know is a thing? Because I think that's important to share that with people. I'd love to hear that for my own stuff.
I think what changed for me in the few times we've worked out is I thought I had a good understanding of mechanical failure or drop sets, and as a knowledge, I understood conceptually what they should be. But walking through the actual workout with you step by step, it was so much easier to intuitively feel those moments and really recognize, and the little, like the half pulses, an extra tool to make sure that the gas tank's empty and that the mechanical failure is true and full. Yeah. And the only other thing I would say is we discussed this morning is like the biofeedback, and that resonates with me and my family so deeply, just because we've come so far and we're all on the macro ball diet, but it's I appreciate it, obviously, but when I see my wife and my kids, and especially my kids, asking and telling me that their bodies feel like they need a macro bowl, that's like biofeedback on a level that, like, it's so, honest and genuine. It's coming from a child, but they're like, yeah, I don't want that pizza or I don't want that thing. Like, I have a soccer game tomorrow and I want a macro bowl. And to have that, like, that level of performance where in a household where nobody can be considered neurotypical, the way that the principles of the nutrition and the training have helped with all of our mental health, physical health, things have changed so much. My wife is able to eat things that she was told she should never eat again. She was on medications that she was told she was going to be on forever that she's no longer on. I'm similar to the ones you're on. And so, and it all boils down to just these basic superhuman principles.
And I mean, that's the beautiful thing, is that people don't realize that it's not just about how you look. Right. It's the quality of your life. It's the quality of your energy. If you're struggling with your mental health, if you're struggling with your mood, the kids want to perform better playing soccer. I mean, all of these things, again, food is like software. And that biofeedback around your body, I think that's probably the last thing I'd want to emphasize, is the biofeedback component of, when you get reflux, or when you get digestive issues, or when you're getting brain fog or anxiety, or you're getting cravings, or you're not sleeping well, or you're getting like low libido, or you're not recovering well in the gym, you're getting lots of aches and pains. That's biofeedback. Your body is essentially sending you signals to try and tell you that things are suboptimal. And most people, they just block the signal. If they're tired, they just take more caffeine. If they can't sleep, they just take more sleep aids. If they're getting reflux or some digestive problem, they'll just take more Nexium or Tums. They block the signal. What happens is the pathology doesn't go away. The root's still there, and it often metastasizes into something more because you're not getting the signal. And so I think if people can understand that the way they feel right now is transient, it's not something that's hardwired into you. And the beautiful thing is that the abs and the body, it's just a byproduct of optimizing the biofeedback. So I love that you've embraced that, man. And I'm so appreciative of the journey with you. So
I appreciate that. It's been a gift.
Hell yeah, bro. Boom.